When Thin Tim came to stay with his friend Fat Tulip, he always slept in the airing cupboard. Thin Tim loved doing odd jobs, and today he wanted to saw down the big branch on the side of the apple tree. It is big, and it is old, and it is dangerous, he said, and it could go bonk on somebody's head. He wanted Fat Tulip to help him, but all Fat Tulip wanted to do was play with his frisbee. "Come on down, Thin Tim," he said. "All right," said Thin Tim. "Right," said Fat Tulip. "I'll throw it and you can catch. It'll be very good exercise for me. 1, 2, 3, and he threw the frisbee. And did Thin Tim catch it? No. The frisbee went right over Thin Tim's head, boom, and landed in some bushes. Thin Tim bent over and picked up the frisbee. Went Thin Tim. "Those bushes were stinging nettles. Look at my hand, it's covered in little red stingy blotches. I'm fed up with this game and you won't help me saw down the branch. I'm going to go inside and have another jammy donut." And he marched inside the house and he slammed the door behind him. "Oh dear," said Fat Tulip. "I'll have to play frisbee on my own." And he threw the frisbee and it landed right in the apple tree. "Come on down, frisbee," said Fat Tulip, but the frisbee didn't budge. "I'll have to shake the tree," thought Fat Tulip. The frisbee didn't budge. "I'll blow it down." The frisbee didn't budge. Suddenly, Fat Tulip heard a noise behind him. Dear, 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 dear. It was Inspector Challoner, the local policeman. "Fat Tulip," said the inspector, "I have got a new secret weapon. With my secret weapon, I'll be able to stop all the baddies, all the thieves, and all the burglars on my patch. Can you guess what it is?" "A new truncheon," said Fat Tulip. "Nah." "A new police whistle." "Nah." "Oh, I know," said Fat Tulip. "It's one of those police walkie-talkie things that goes 10-4, 10-4, over and out." "No," said the inspector. "This is my new secret weapon. Dorian!" And the next second, the soppiest, floppiest, lollopiest grey dog you've ever seen in your life came racing up to them. And the inspector said, "Dorian, find the burglar." Woof! Went Dorian and shot into the house. "But, Inspector," said Fat Tulip, "we haven't got a burglar." "Nobody knows whether they have a burglar or not," said the inspector. "That is how burglars burgle." The next second, woof, Dorian was back. "Did you find the burglar?" said the inspector. Went Dorian. "Right," said the inspector. "Follow that dog." "Don't let that dog out of your sight!" Dorian raced along, sniffing and panting. "Come on!" Through the kitchen they went, up the stairs they went, along the landing they went, and into the bathroom. They burst into the bathroom, where Thin Tim was sitting in the wash basin eating one of his jammy donuts. But Dorian went straight over to the airing cupboard and started scratching at it with his claws. "Fat Tulip," said the inspector, "you have an intruder in your airing cupboard." And Fat Tulip said no, he didn't think he did, because that's where Thin Tim was staying. And Thin Tim said no, he didn't think there was an intruder in there, because he'd only just come out of it himself. "Stand back, please, stand back," said the inspector. "Leave this to me. Stand back." "Whoever's in that airing cupboard," said the inspector, "I'm going to count to 3, and if you're not out by then, I'll bash the door down." And he took off his police hat. 1, 2... And Thin Tim said that there wasn't any point in bashing the door down because it wasn't locked anyway. And he opened the door. the inspector, but the inspector didn't notice. 3, said the inspector. Right, I'm going to bash the door down. And he fell right into the cupboard. I've got you, I've got you, I've got you, he said. And Fat Tulip said, could he please mind not standing up too straight, because on the top shelf he and Thin Tim were warming up their jammy doughnuts. And the police inspector said, what did you say? And he hit his head on the top shelf, and all the jammy doughnuts fell all over the inspector. Dorian, you stupid dog, said the inspector. I told you to sniff out burglars, not sniff out jammy doughnuts. And he put his hat firmly on his head. But unfortunately there was a jammy doughnut in his hat, and all the cream and all the jam fell all over his face and all down the back of his neck. Dorian, said the inspector, you stupid dog! Get out of here! And Dorian raced out into the garden. Poor old Dorian, he didn't know much about gardens. All he knew about was police stations and police cells, but he liked the smell of this one. He liked the way the grass tickled his nose, and he liked the noise that the leaves made under his paws. Suddenly, he saw a little round green thing ahead of him. Oh, wow, he said. A ball. I've always wanted to play with a ball. And he started very carefully to creep towards it. He was just about to jump on it when suddenly the ball turned round and said, hello. Oh, wow, said Dorian, a talking ball, and started to back away again. Of course, it wasn't really a ball at all. It was only the frog being friendly. Dorian backed, and suddenly, bluff! Dorian tripped over, and another ball started bouncing up and down in front of him. It was Sylvie the frog, and she was saying, "Oi, you just tripped over my skipping rope." "Oh," said Dorian, "hundreds of talking balls, and they've got arms and legs." And he started backing towards the apple tree. "It's all right," said the frogs. "We're just being friendly." But by this time, Dorian was climbing up the tree. "Shouldn't go under there," said the frogs. "I shouldn't climb up that thing, because it's very dangerous." But by this time, he was crawling along the branch. Just at that moment, Inspector Challoner came racing out into the garden. "Dorian," he said, "you come down from there immediately." And there was a groaning noise and a crashing noise, and suddenly a great big branch and a tiny little white frisbee and a great big floppy grey dog went cring, buff, bang, wallop right onto the inspector's head. "You thundering great loon, Dorian," he said. But Thin Tim said, "Thank you very much, Dorian. You got that branch down for me. I could never have done that on my own." And Fat Tulip said, "Oh, thank you very much, Dorian. You got my frisbee down for me. I couldn't have done that on my own." But the inspector said, "Dorian, I'm going to send you back to the kennels." "Oh no, oh no, oh no, don't," said the frogs. But nobody could hear them. Then Fat Tulip had an idea. "Inspector," he said, "why doesn't Dorian come and stay with us?" That evening, Dorian was racing round and round and round his new home. He'd never been so happy in his life. He raced round the orchard for the 123rd time, when suddenly he saw the two little green balls in front of the lily pond. "Oh, wow," he said. "It's all right, dog," said Ernie. "We're not balls, we're frogs, and we live in this garden." "Oh, wow," said Dorian. "So do I. I moved in today. We'll have lots of amazing fun together, won't we?" "Oh, yeah, fantastic," said Sylv. Amazing," said Ernie. And the two frogs jumped back into their pond. And that is how Dorian came to live in the garden.